And then you want to go down to the public view. And let me know if we may be live, but if we're not, we're just about to go live. And welcome everybody, welcome members. Happy Friday to everybody. It's good to see you here. We're testing this out. We're not going to do this every single time. This isn't the way that we're going to do it always, but you know, we got to try some different things. We got to shake it up a little bit. This whole GoToWebinar stuff all the time. After like 10 years of GoToWebinar, I want to throw my computer in the garbage when I see the GoToWebinar control panel. It's not really my thing. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come over here and I'll move the camera with me just a little bit. I'm going to go over, sit here, and make sure that over in the chat room you've all got the link to this. Oh, I won't even be able to see this because my Wi-Fi is off, but I'll turn the Wi-Fi on for a moment and reload the webinar, and we'll see if anybody is saying hello here in the webinar area, or if it's even working. It's probably a good idea as well. Welcome if you're just joining us now. Does it show that we have any viewers, Nate? Yeah. Oh, okay, we've got some viewers. Yeah. So we've got some people. Welcome. It's good to have you here. Then I'm not even gonna check that. I'm just gonna go ahead and assume that we can jump over here to the whiteboard, and we can start talking about the goals, which we planned on discussing today. Excuse me. Big goals. Yesterday, on our session on Facebook, we talked about smaller goals and incremental goals. And today I want to talk about the big goals. So I want another one of these. It's my favorite material possession I've ever had in my life, right? So I want another 911. I want a 911 Turbo, let's say. And I think that's probably going to cost, I don't know, $185,000. All right. So that's a big picture goal. All right, that's a big deal. And you might be wanting, I don't know, a giant trading account, or a really big house, or I don't know what it is, but it could be all kinds of exciting stuff. And what I want to talk about today is how we go about the process of achieving something that's on a much grander scale that seems outside of our grasp right now, or is really not something that we'd like to create this or have this, manifest this with money that we don't have right now, or we want to earn on top of what we have right now. And so if I'm going to get a 911 Turbo, it certainly is going to come out of my savings account. Now that I'm married, I'm not just going to go down to the Porsche dealer and now that I'm married, I just go buy a 911. That's not going to happen. That's going to have to come from trading profits or some other place that I get those profits. Now, like I said, you might have a similar kind of situation. So what I want to talk about is, I want to remind you of what we talked about yesterday. What we talked about yesterday is there's this great myth that success in accomplishing your goals comes from a very detailed plan. And what we decided, or what we agreed to together, or what I proposed, is that we take a leap of faith and we do incremental, easy goals, and we let the rest of it take care of itself. And that's for trading, and especially for anyone that is not experiencing significant success in the world of trading. The easiest way to become successful is not to set a goal to eliminate my entire gigantic drawdown, or it's not to set a goal that I'm going to make $1 million. It's to set a goal that's so easy to achieve that it even seems laughable. Okay, so let's remember those stages. So here's what I want to do with respect to the big goals. What I want to do is I want you to envision a starting point of 1. That's where you are today. And an end point here where you've achieved whatever it is that you aspire to. So and I want you to just visualize that in your mind right now. Just start with the end in mind. Now, what most people will tell you is going to occur next is you're going to create a set of plans, and you're going to work backwards from your goal, and you're going to say, well, if I need $185,000 here, then I need, 100,000 here and 75,000 here and, $1 right here. And that you're going to grow that, in stages. And the problem that I've seen this now a million times, the problem with this is that this is too much to swallow. And this plan takes too long to accomplish. I have a friend who runs a very successful business, but he said, what I want to do is I want to create a $100 million a year company. And so he set out on the road and he started making $100,000 to $200,000 a month. And then he reached a limit. And there's such a giant chasm between $100,000 a month and $100 million a year that he basically stopped. And whereas this is a completely reasonable amount of money, it's so far away from what the goal was that the whole thing breaks down. And it's very difficult, if you've never made $100 million a year, to come up with a plan to make that $100 million a year. And it's very difficult. So if I want to create $185,000 and I want to have this, and it's got to be extra on top of what I have right now, and it's big, it's very difficult to set out and make a specific plan. I've done it already once before, so theoretically I could, but that's not even the way that my first 9/11 came to be sitting in my garage. That's not the way that happened. And it's not the way that somebody who makes $100 million got there either. There's a whole different process for achieving big goals that really eliminates all of this. Because that doesn't really work at all, actually. And so what I want to talk about is something a little bit different. The first thing I want you to do, and I know this sounds absolutely crazy, is I want you to imagine that you already have it. I want you to actually identify yourself as the person who already has that. And I want you to walk around as if, and I know this sounds crazy, as if the knowledge that you already have that is already in front of you. Now, if that sounds like magical and new agey and weird, that's fine. I don't really, listen, hey, that's the way it is. I want you to imagine that house or that car or that 100 million is a really big number, but fine, it's $100 million. I want you to walk around as if that already happened. I don't want you to spend money like that already happened, but I want you to, listen, if you're not the kind of person who already acts like you have this, then you're never gonna get it. You're never gonna get the things that you imagine are too far above you. In other words, every person, let's say this is Sally. And let's say that Sally wants, a Porsche 911 Turbo and she wants it to be yellow just like that. Let's say that Sally wants that car. Sally right now is driving, a 1984 Fiero. I don't know, Nate, that's probably a good example. And that's a pretty great car. I actually wanted a Fiero back in the day. But this is the ceiling on what Sally thinks that she can have. It's what she has currently, and it's what she accepts as possible for her. Sally needs to take a big leap, to use the words from, I can't remember, Gay Hendricks, I don't remember the name of the person that wrote the book. Sally needs to take a leap, and she needs to rise above that, and she needs to imagine that she's already operating on a level where Sally is up here above this level of a Porsche 911. So let's say that your name is Andrew Palladino and your goal is or your aspiration is to manage $50 million. What you want to do is you want to start walking, talking, and acting like you're the kind of person that already manages $50 million. And if you don't know what that kind of person is like, and if you don't know what that kind of person is, then you need to surround yourself with materials And that includes books and podcasts or whatever else, or people, optimally people, if you can, who've already done that. And you need to see how they act. You need to learn how they respond to their environment, and you need to be the kind of person. Now, no one's going to give $50 million to a person who doesn't act like they're the kind of person that can manage $50 million. It's a chicken and egg problem. And Sally over here, until she feels like she's the kind of person that naturally deserves to and does drive a Porsche 911, she's never going to get inside that car. She's always forever going to feel like that car is bigger than her and better than her and more than what she can handle or more than what she can deserve, which is not true, and you know that's not true. We know Sally. I don't know Sally. Or Andrew Palladino. I don't even know if this is your goal, Andrew, so I apologize in advance, but if Andrew's goal is to manage $50 million and to be a licensed and regulated hedge fund manager or run his own mutual fund, which you probably can start on your own these days, if that's your goal, if you're not the kind of person who already acts, walks, and talks like the person who manages $50 million, that's never going to happen. No one's ever going to give you that money. No one's ever going to take a chance. And I see this all the time. I see people write me and they say, well, I have a $1,000 account, but would you give me even $50,000, Rob? I'm begging you for it. And I get these messages all the time. I'm begging you for this. I know I could, I know if you give me a chance, I could do that. And what this just reeks of is a desperate, anxious, unproven, and untested kind of individual. And that person's never going to get even $50,000. They're never going to get $10,000. They're never going to get $5,000 of other people's money. It's never going to happen. And yet, still to this day, unfortunately, I see people out there acting like they manage $100 million. And all the time, people are sending them money to manage. And that person doesn't really manage money at all and isn't really very experienced. They're just acting like they are. Now, that's disgusting and terrible, but it's a sad realization that the kind of person who acts like they deserve the 9/11 or the $50 million, I'm not saying being arrogant. I'm saying that you don't feel that any of those goals are above you. The person who acts like that's already true, who acts as if. So let's put that as if. Act as if. If you act as if you're that person. Now, you could say that's calling it faking it until you make it. You could say that, and you'd probably be true. And as long as you're not deceiving anybody, and as long as you're not stealing from anybody, and as long as you're being honest with people, and as long as you're being honest with yourself, you're saying, I'm rising to the level that deserves this or understands that they deserve it. You're not going to ever get inside of whatever that dream is. Okay, that's stage number one. So that's number one, is to act as if. So a lot of people, what they do is they will imagine, once again, that their goal is above them, or that they are separate from their goal, that there's a linear progression. There's point one where you are now, and point X, end where you want to be, and that this is separate from you. And as long as you feel that this is separate from you or above you, it's never going to happen, ever. Not in your wildest dreams. And the minute you get it, you're going to lose it. And it's why people who win the lottery lose all their money all the time, because they got an amount of money that they didn't feel that they deserved, and they didn't feel like they were worth. And so that money just got thrown away, essentially. Okay, number two, stage number two. I'll write that more clearly. Stage number two, after you're acting as if, is to take the long view. What a lot of people out there in the world of Tony Robbins land is what they will say is that if you hustle, the Gary Vee, the Tony Robbins, the Tim Ferriss, what they will say is, oh man, there's a shortcut for success, and you can rewire your brain, and you can achieve what other people take years to achieve. You can achieve that in hours or days or months or whatever. And there's all these stories of someone rising rapidly into sort of the hall of fame of making money or having success. And that person will tell the story of how within a very short period of time they hacked the system and they got where they need to be. Well, that's all just garbage. And that's just selling a dream that maybe isn't a reality. If you, instead of taking the view that you want to have that car or that $50 million within a year, if you take the long view and you give yourself, for any of these goals that we're talking about, 10 years, you automatically accomplish a whole bunch of things immediately. And here's the list of things that you accomplish. Number one, you're relaxed. You're no longer under a huge amount of pressure. And nobody accomplishes any of these things that we want to accomplish if they are trying too hard. Number two, it allows the circumstances to line up, and it allows for the circumstances to come to you, instead of you chasing after something that never works. It never works when you're chasing a person or a job, or you're running down the street after some famous person asking for their autograph. That never works. It never works the way that you want. It doesn't happen naturally. It doesn't happen at all. When you give yourself the long view, it allows the circumstances to line up in your favor. Now, if you're walking around for 10 years as if you're the kind of person that deserves to and does drive this kind of car, the circumstances naturally can line up for this to occur. And you're going to be in a relaxed state of mind, so you're going to identify stuff. Have you ever been in a really anxious state of mind and you're driving after having an argument with somebody, and then you realize you don't know where you are, you drove past a bunch of stuff, or you ran a red light when you were really anxious? That's because you weren't paying attention because you were so overwhelmed with anxiety. By giving yourself the long view, it's not just about being patient. It's about allowing yourself to relax so the circumstances can be presented to you under which something like this would be possible. It also does the following. It allows for surprise endings. The entire, I would say, I don't want to be dismissive of Tony Robbins, but the whole Tony Robbins theory of accomplishing stuff is that you start here with a definite goal and you end up with exactly the thing that you wanted and asked for, and you did it by setting a plan and working backwards from there. What I want to propose to you is that the way that this $50 million goes to Andrew Palladino, or the way that Sally ends up inside of a Porsche 911, or the way that I ended up with someone like my wife who's way better than me and way more than I could possibly ever deserve, the way that that happened isn't because I mean, imagine this for a minute. Imagine that I chased after somebody who I thought was better than me, and I chased after her, and I wrote her love notes, and I stood outside of her window, and I tried to play the guitar for her when she didn't want to hear the guitar. I mean, that's just creepy and weird. Well, that's how every good thing that the universe can offer you is going to feel if you start chasing it. On the other hand, if you set yourself up as the kind of person that acts as if they deserve it, and you start living your life in the way that someone would live their life that had that thing that you want, and you give yourself the long view so you relax. So let's say that you have $1 billion. Getting another $1 million on top of it is no big deal. So you have the long view. It's like, no, that's no big deal. When you have the long view, it's no big deal anymore. This can't be a big deal. You can't act like the thing that you want is some giant deal. You can't pee in your pants, when someone proposes to help you out on this. You can't act like this is you can't do that. That's not the way that this stuff happens. When you have the long view and you have that relaxed state of mind, because you're acting as if and you have given yourself a long time, this thing's going to come to you. This goal will be accomplished in some way, shape, or form that you never expected that it would. And this is because the human mind is finite, right? Our human minds are finite. We operate on a linear fashion. We haven't broken through the fifth dimension, or we don't live our lives in 4D, or we're not living in a quantum mechanic universe. So we can't even comprehend the way that these things occur. By acting as if you're the kind of person and doing the kinds of things that people do that act as if they already have it, by giving yourself the long view, meanwhile, of course, you're racking up lots of small wins over here, like we talked about yesterday, the small wins. So you're simultaneously building huge amounts of confidence because you're racking up the small wins, what happens eventually, and this is just crazy, something, well, let's just use the word crazy. Something crazy happens. And this has happened to me now so many times, finding my wife or having my Porsche the first time that I had it, through a completely bizarre series of events where, I'll tell you that story some other time. We can talk about that another time. But a crazy series of events leads you into whatever it was that you wanted. And it doesn't usually take that long period of time that you originally anticipated that it might. In fact, it actually ends up coming to you much sooner than you would ever have imagined, but not because you hustled, not because you had some kind of definite plan. What happens when you have the linear, I hate to keep using his name, but the Tony Robbins, I'm going to hack the system and work really hard and make a plan view. What happens is you're like, oh no, I'm going to make my $50 million this way. And so you discount opportunities that come your way because it's taking you off the plan. Well, if you have too many plans, well, then the way that the universe wants to reward you for being a good person that treats people well and works hard and racks up small wins, the way that the universe wants to reward you for that, you're just going to completely discount it. And if you're too anxious about it because it has to happen right away, then you're not going to notice it. Everything that we're doing here, everything that we're talking about, is what Matt Lococo would refer to as, can you see the top of this right here? Yeah. You can kind of see it, right? So we're going to just write it up here, small. This is what Matt Lococo would refer to as allowing. Instead of striving, you're allowing. So striving is over here. I think striving and working hard is for when you take a leap of faith and set really easy goals, and then you strive for those things, but it's almost effortless. So say, for instance, that you play in the National Basketball Association, and you have a contract that pays you $500,000 a year, and you play, I don't know, point guard. What you want to do is you want to get yourself on a team where the easiest shot that you can make is the shot that you're set up for every time. Or that team caters to your game so that you can just keep doing what you do really well, and then you can appear to be even better than you are. If you're a trader and you set a goal to make $1 a week instead of $1,000 a week, that $1 a week is easy, and you start to build up a lot of wins, and then what seems easy for you to accomplish continually gets better and better. You rise above all of the difficult goals as they go, and you are incrementally building confidence, and incrementally things that are more and more difficult become more and more easy. The first time I took a trade, it was really difficult. The first year I had turned a profit was really difficult, but then it seemed easy. And then the first year that I made $100,000, that was really difficult, but then $100,000 seemed really easy. And then the first time I made $100,000 in a month, that seemed really difficult, but then that seems easy now. Like if I wanted to make $100,000, I could make $100,000 in a month. And the first time I made $242,000 in a month, and so on and so forth. And the same would happen for you. And it all starts with $1. It all starts with something really easy. So along the way, you're racking up lots of confidence and small wins and acting as if you deserve this final goal that you want, and you do it with a relaxed, you're never pressuring yourself to accomplish anything difficult. And then progressively over time, everything that you want to do in your life seems like it's easy. And other people look at you and are like, wow, that seems really easy for you and it's really hard for me. And you can reflect on a year ago when that seemed difficult for you as well. What most people try to do is they try to bite off a whole plan. And the entire plan, and if they plan it out on a 20-page plan or even a one-page plan, it's so big and it's so giant, it's so difficult, and it's so structured that they can't live in the world where this kind of great stuff happens naturally. They're trying to force it, they're trying to strive for it, they're trying to plan for it, and nothing ever really great on this kind of magnitude and this kind of scale was ever anything that somebody set out on day one and then did a series of very definite things which anyone else could follow. That would never happen. That's not the way that Rockefeller or Carnegie or J.P. Morgan or any of the titans of business 100 years ago did it. They fell into something, they acted as if they were confident and they deserved it, and then the empire started to build around them. And as opportunities popped up, they took them. But sure as hell, John Rockefeller Sr. didn't imagine that he would be a titan of oil refining and sales at the very beginning. He was just a number cruncher who had an opportunity to start investing in an area. And he acted like the kind of person, he was saving his money and counting his money, like the kind of person that takes good care of money really early on. Anyway, in other words, to cap this all off and finish this all off, you always have in the back of your mind that this is possible. This big goal is possible. Maybe even that you already deserve it, and it's already there, and it already exists, and you're acting as if. And then the universe starts to conspire to provide things for you that push you in this direction. And then one day you just end up and you're driving along in a car or managing $50 million, and what seemed like it was so far away from you originally no longer seems like that big of a deal. So think about something today, something that's big, something that you'd like to have, and then give yourself that 10-year long view of accomplishing it or having it come to you, and then act as if you already deserve it, and then allow things to start happening. And as opportunities arise, take them. And if that opportunity starts to fail, then drop it, and then wait for the next opportunity to come along. And you're going to find that the circumstances, I don't know how it all works. I mean, that's my best explanation that I can have. So anyway, this is my first test on doing a YouTube Live in front of the whiteboard, and I've wanted to do that for a long time. So thanks for being here, everybody. I really appreciate you spending some time with me on a Friday. Thanks for being a lifetime member. You're my family, and I love the crap out of you. And we'll see you next week in our webinars, and maybe another session like this. All right.